New information is revealed about an overnight shooting in Delano. A pedestrian is hit and killed along the 178 last night. And local twin girls born prematurely are in desperate need of our community's help. This is 17 News at Noon.
Good afternoon to you. I'm Alex Fisher. We're learning more about that deadly shooting in Delano overnight. It happened around 10:30 at Cesar Chavez Park. When Delano police arrived, they found a man and a woman who had been both shot. The coroner says the woman was 19-year-old Nayeli Gonzalez. The man was taken to the hospital. We will bring you more information on the story as soon as it becomes available. Also overnight, a major injury crash in northwest Bakersfield. You're taking a look at video from the scene on Rosedale Highway between Jenkins and Renfro. It happened at 9:30 last night. A news release says the driver of the car turned in front of the motorcycle. That's when they collided, causing major damage to both vehicles. The motorcyclist was ejected from his bike. Both drivers were taken to the hospital with major injuries. The crash is still under investigation, but drugs and alcohol do not appear to be factors. Just into our newsroom, we've learned the name of the person hit by a car and killed in East Bakersfield. The coroner says 41-year-old Michael Hanash was struck by a car yesterday evening along Highway 178. CHP says the crash happened just before 8 o'clock on westbound 178 east of Haley Street. And the search continues this afternoon for the driver who hit and killed a pedestrian southwest Bakersfield. It happened early Wednesday morning on Oriole Street just after 1 a.m. on New Year's Day. Police say 54-year-old Kirk Parrish was walking in the street when he was hit. He died a short time later at the hospital. BPD says the suspect's car is possibly a black and gray Dodge Charger or Challenger. If you have any information, call BPD at 327-7111. An accident on Highway 43 sent several people to the hospital. The crash involving several vehicles happened just after 2:30 yesterday afternoon near Interstate 5. You're taking a look at pictures from the Kern County Fire Department. Crews pulled 3 people from the wreckage. One person was reportedly airlifted to the hospital. 2 others were taken to the hospital by ambulance. There's no word yet on the condition of those people. All right, let's take a look at your forecast as we enter the first weekend of 2020.
And not a lot happening out there. A few high clouds, a little bit of a haze due to air quality. We did see some patchy fog this morning, but it really wasn't a problem here in the Kern County area. But areas to the north did see visibility down to 0. And we still have a little patch of fog between Tulare and Fresno, but visibility, if you're going to be traveling that way, is good, around 8 miles. 59 degrees in Bakersfield right now. We have a light wind out of the west at 8. Our visibility great, 10 miles. And as we take a look at the temperatures as we go throughout the day, we will be in the 60s before we slip back into the 40s by midnight. And then for Tehachapi, 57 degrees. You have a breeze out of the east at 15. Visibility is good at 9 miles. And as we take a look at the day, temperatures are going to be very nice and comfortable with those upper 50s and slipping back into the chilly 30s right around 10. We'll have more on your weekend weather. That's coming up in a few minutes.
Protests in Tehran this afternoon after Iran's top general killed in a dramatic airstrike at Baghdad's airport under direct orders from President Trump. Here you can see protesters are yelling "Death to America" and "Revenge." The top general's funeral will be on Sunday in Tehran. Experts call this a watershed moment in a 40-year Cold War between the U.S. and Iran's regime, with many U.S. officials in both parties glad that a leading Iranian military force figure is gone. The news is not setting well with Wall Street. Here's a live look at the Dow Jones. This morning, Iran says they're promising to retaliate, and now there's concerns a war could emerge. NBC's Andrea Mitchell has more.
Overnight, an American airstrike ordered by President Trump, killing a top Iranian general. The Pentagon confirming a U.S. strike on Baghdad International Airport in Iraq, killing General Qasem Soleimani, the powerful commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard's elite Quds force. President Trump not commenting publicly but tweeting this morning, Iran never won a war but never lost a negotiation. While Secretary of State Mike Pompeo tweeted this video, he says shows some Iraqis in Baghdad dancing in the streets over Soleimani's death. Pompeo speaking out this morning on Fox News.
We don't seek war with Iran, but we at the same time are not going to stand by and watch the Iranians escalate and continue to put American lives at risk.
Soleimani, an iconic military leader, led forces in Iraq, Syria, and throughout the Middle East. American officials believe he was responsible for the deaths of hundreds of American soldiers during the Iraq War, branding him a terrorist. The Pentagon calling last night's airstrike a decisive defensive action to protect U.S. personnel abroad, adding Soleimani was actively developing plans to attack American diplomats and service members in Iraq and throughout the region. Iran's foreign minister on Twitter calling the killing an act of international terrorism and extremely dangerous and a foolish escalation, adding, the U.S. bears responsibility for all consequences of its rogue adventurism. In the past, the U.S. did credit the general's militias with combating an American enemy, ISIS, in Iraq. The airstrikes followed a warning Thursday from Defense Secretary Mark Esper, hinting at preemptive action if there were any renewed attacks against U.S. personnel or interests in Iraq.
We have all the capabilities inherent in the United States military to either respond to further attacks or to take preemptive action if additional attacks are being prepared.
President Trump asked New Year's Eve about the possibility of a war with Iran.
I don't think that would be a good idea for Iran. It wouldn't last very long. Do I want to? No. I want to have peace. I like peace.
The strike is likely to inflame tensions between the U.S. and Iran, already heightened by the New Year's siege on the American embassy in Baghdad, when rioters, the U.S. says, backed by Iran, attacked the compound. Riots that quickly ended after 100 Marines were airlifted into the embassy. Nearly 700 additional Army paratroopers from Fort Bragg also arriving in Kuwait. Last summer, Lester talked to the head of Iran's National Security Council in a rare interview about increased tension with the U.S. and the possibility of an all-out war.
In the case of war, the U.S. will be in a very terrible situation, and its regional allies as well.
How far is Iran willing to go to defend its interests?
Iran has multiple instruments at hand, including the proxy war.
That was Andrea Mitchell reporting, and President Trump could respond to the airstrike and the retaliation threats from Iran. If he does, we will bring you that live on TV 17 in an NBC News special report. Dramatic body cam footage that shows two sheriff's deputies saving a couple who was trapped in their burning Bakersfield home.
Do you have any other dogs? I'm going to push you, okay? Just hold on, okay?
Here you can see one of the deputies pushing a woman in a wheelchair away from the fast-moving flames as she clutches her dog. The fire started around 1 a.m. on December 18th at the home on Montecito Drive in East Bakersfield. Officials say deputies Kenneth Muller and Diego Gonzalez ran into the home before firefighters arrived and saved the couple. Both the husband and wife escaped injury, along with the deputies. You can see more of the body cam footage on our website, KGET.com. An inmate at North Kern State Prison has died, and now officials are looking at his cellmate as a potential suspect in the death. The Department of Corrections says 63-year-old Lawrence Tate was found unresponsive in his cell on Wednesday. He was pronounced dead yesterday morning. Now a homicide investigation has started. Officials say Tate's cellmate, 30-year-old Willie Clay, is a suspect in the death. The prison's investigative services unit and the Kern County coroner is investigating. Halton Community Blood Bank is asking for your help. Here's a picture of Gloria and Maya. On Facebook, the blood bank says these twin girls were born prematurely and donations are seriously needed. Specifically, they need donors with O-negative blood, but they won't turn anyone away. Halton has two locations, one on Bolthouse Drive and another on Truxton Avenue. Both are open until 7 p.m. Walk-ins are welcome, but you can also make an appointment at the blood bank's website at hcbb.com. Compassion Corner will have its first fundraiser of the new year next week. We're teaming up with the Alzheimer's Disease Association of Kern County for its annual Cinnamon Roll Drive. You're taking a look at video from last year. Last year, the association sold out before 11 a.m., raising more than $25,000 for programs that support local families whose loved ones are living with Alzheimer's. It's all happening across the street from our station at 22nd and L Streets. The sale begins at 6 a.m., and the rolls keep coming out until they're gone. For $10, you can purchase an 8-pack of Hodel's famous cinnamon rolls. The association says buying 110 will provide an hour of care for someone who is living with Alzheimer's. You can pre-order by texting Hodel's at 41444. Well, it is the first weekend of 2020, and the weather's looking pretty nice. You're taking a live look outside our Adventist Health camera. Kevin's got a look at your weekend forecast coming up after the break. Welcome back on this finally Friday and taking a look at your forecast now with Kev.
And taking the top of KGET, looking off to the east, and beautiful conditions out there. A little bit of some high clouds and even a little bit of patchy fog looks like maybe in the distance. It could just be a little haze due to the air quality as well. So we're getting kind of that mix for today. Let's take a look at other areas around Kern County. We've got 55 and mostly sunny. Out in Wasco, Arvin looking good there, 63 degrees. Frazier Park, you can see the blue skies. The snow starting to melt away. And Golden Hills, a few high clouds, and currently we're at 58 degrees there. 59 in Bakersfield. We have a light wind out of the west at 8 miles per hour. Fog was not a problem this morning. Visibility is good now. Overnight, we're at 38, right where we should be this time of year. Normal high is 55. We will be above that today, and 75. The record set back in 1930. Here's a look at other temperatures. Valley numbers into the mid to upper 50s, some lower 60s out there, 50s and 60s into the mountains, and 50s out in the desert. So we're starting the afternoon really, really nice, and this will continue throughout the day. A few high clouds being picked up on satellite, but that's all we're going to see. And you can see even to the north, we've got clear skies for the most part. There is a surf advisory along the LA beaches, but that is about it. High pressure still in control here as the jet stream is positioned north. We will start to see a little bit of cloud cover by next week and maybe even a chance of a shower. But in the short term here, take a look at our 18-hour futurecast model. All we're seeing is some high clouds, but dry conditions remain around the area. Air quality today, if you're going to be out and about, is unhealthy for sensitive groups, and that's kind of why we see that haze out there. Your AQI at 102, no burning is allowed for today. And as we take a look at your forecast for the remainder of today, we'll look for mostly sunny skies. We could see some fog redevelop tonight. 67 in Bakersfield, 65 in Delano, and we'll see the same in Maricopa and Taft. For the mountains in the Kern River Valley, mostly sunny, a southeast wind 5 to 10. 56 in Frazier Park, Tehachapi right near 58, and 60s for the Kern River Valley. Tonight, you'll be in the 30s and 40s. For the desert, mostly sunny, a south wind 5 to 10. 59 in Mojave with Ridgecrest at 61. Tonight, you're in the 30s. As we take a look at the extended forecast here, we will be looking mostly sunny through next Tuesday. Again, some clouds by next Thursday and a slight chance of a shower. Temperatures still remaining into the 50s and 60s. Overnight temperatures will be into the 40s. So overall, starting out the new year, very, very nice. As we take a look at the mountain forecast, we're also looking at plenty of sunshine through about Wednesday. Mostly cloudy skies next Thursday. Temperatures will be in the 50s through Saturday. A little cooler on Sunday, but then right back up in the lower 50s by Monday. And then for the Kern River Valley, also very nice throughout the next 6 days or so. But again, some increasing clouds by about Wednesday, Thursday of next week, and we'll keep a slight chance of a shower in there next Thursday. But a great weekend to get out and enjoy the New Year weather.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, after several days of, kind of rainy, stormy weather in December, it's nice to kind of see a forecast, an extended forecast that's sunny.
Get a little bit of a break.
Yeah, love it, Kev. All right, thanks so much. Well, still, I had a warning that could put your hard-earned money at risk. The reason why fraudsters are getting better at stealing people's money. We'll also have some tips on how to protect yourself coming up.
We took action last night to stop a war. We did not take action to start a war. I have deep respect for the Iranian people. They are a remarkable people with an incredible heritage and unlimited potential. We do not seek regime change. However, the Iranian regime's aggression in the region, including the use of proxy fighters to destabilize its neighbors, must end, and it must end now. The future belongs to the people of Iran, those who seek peaceful coexistence and cooperation, not the terrorist warlords who plunder their nation.
Welcome back. You're taking a look at a live NBC News special report. President Trump is talking for the first time since those airstrikes. Let's take a listen in.
We have the best intelligence in the world. If Americans anywhere are threatened, we have all of those targets already fully identified, and I am ready and prepared to take whatever action is necessary. And that in particular refers to Iran. Under my leadership, we have destroyed the ISIS territorial caliphate. And recently, American Special Operations Forces killed the terrorist leader known as al-Baghdadi. The world is a safer place without these monsters. America will always pursue the interests of good people, great souls, while seeking peace, harmony, and friendship with all of the nations of the world. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our great military, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, and again, you were taking a look at President Trump, who just gave a speech for the first time since those airstrikes. And again, we will let's continue to listen here to this special report.
Baghdad, the president saying he took the action to stop a war, not to start a war. Let's go to Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent Andrea Mitchell in our Washington newsroom. What's your first take here, Andrea?
Well, I think exactly that, saying that he is not trying to start a war, he's trying to stop a war. So saying that they were playing defense, not specifying, obviously, the intelligence or what was the imminent threat, but we've been told by officials at various departments around town, including the State Department, that there were dozens, if not hundreds of Americans, diplomats, civilians, as well as U.S. military, who were at risk, they say, imminently under threat. They claim, of course, the most recent being the siege of the embassy, the Baghdad embassy, which is the largest embassy in the world. And as well fortified as it was, it did take 2 days, and fortification of 100 Marines coming in, and then more troops going to Kuwait nearby. Also, our Pentagon correspondent Courtney Kuby reporting today that 3,500 remaining U.S. troops from Fort Bragg are going to be deployed, the last part of that rapid global response force going to Kuwait, ready to go into Baghdad if necessary, and into the region. Fortifications at embassies around the world, Lester, as well as higher security, U.S. civilians being told to get out of Iraq, get out today. We've seen pictures, which we'll be sharing as well later on Nightly News, of U.S. oil workers leaving Basra. Interestingly, oil prices are not markedly up. The oil markets seem to be taking a lot into account here. They've discounted this really global change in the posture towards Iran from this administration. This is a complete changing point, turning point in U.S.-Iranian relations. But despite that, oil markets are not reacting, and largely because America is now the world's largest exporter of crude oil, and therefore we are not as dependent on the Persian Gulf and on that choke point, the Strait of Hormuz, that Iranian patrol boats can turn on and turn off.
All right, Andrea Mitchell, thanks. Let me go to Richard Engel. He has made his way inside Iraq. The president, for what he said there, suggested that this would end nefarious actions by the Iranians. Things don't work that simple in that part of the world, as you know better than I. What is the expectation? What is the anticipation as Iran has vowed revenge?
Well, Iran is vowing revenge. Iranian officials going all the way up to the supreme leader saying that they will seek vengeance, but they're not specifying when, where, or how, only that there will be American bodies in the Middle East. Whether that's tomorrow, in a week, in a year, we have no idea. But Iran has a lot of capabilities. It has proxy militias in Iraq that it can operate, that it can mobilize, that are armed, that are effective. It has Hezbollah in Lebanon. It has militias in Syria. It has forces in Afghanistan. So if Iran decides that it wants to respond, it's not going to be in a traditional, conventional way. It's not going to send tanks to go meet American troops and fire artillery shells at them. That's also possible, but less likely. More anticipated is that there will be some use of these Iranian proxies, these Iranian militias and agents that it has all across the region, that they will be mobilized and could be directed to carry out attacks against U.S. interests. And I think that's why we're seeing those extra forces being brought in as force protection, as a deterrent to try to tell Iran that if it does that kind of thing, there will be more prices to pay. But the next 48 hours are going to be very volatile in Baghdad and in Tehran. Because what's expected to happen tomorrow, right near the U.S. Embassy that saw protesters backed by Iran, backed by these Iraqi pro-Iranian militias, those protesters are going to go out on the streets tomorrow, and they are going to commemorate the death of Qasem Soleimani and one of the Shiite militia leaders who was killed with him at the Baghdad airport in this American drone strike. After that, his body will be moved to Tehran for more official celebrations of his martyrdom, and then we could see some sort of action. The militias so far that we've been speaking to say they are in a wait-and-see mode. They are mobilizing, they are preparing for tomorrow's event, but they are not giving any indications of what they have in store. The president of Iraq, the official leadership, they're calling for calm. They are saying that cooler heads need to prevail, that this period should not send Iraq deep into a spiral of violence. They worry that it could provoke another civil war, another outbreak of violence in this country. So you have the government calling for calm, militias mobilizing tomorrow, and the U.S. Embassy on its highest possible state of alert starting now.
Richard Engel in Iraq, thanks. Let's go to Hallie Jackson, our chief White House correspondent. Hallie, a couple things to note. That first of all, that statement was put together rather hastily. I know you guys got late word it was happening. But also the president seemed to measure his words very carefully. Didn't take questions, and his level of threats or warnings toward Iran seemed to be somewhat tempered. Did you pick up on any of that?
For sure, Lester, and he also talked about how the United States policy and position is not regime change in Iran, which was clearly intended to be a signal to the Iranians here. Lester, this was an unexpected on-camera appearance from President Trump, but one that was perhaps inevitable given the news over the last 18 or 24 hours or so. I've been talking with sources close to the president, in and around the White House, as he is down here in South Florida for that holiday break. They tell me that the president was making calls to his friends, to his political allies this morning, making the same defense you just heard him lay out to the American people of why this strike happened. I'm told the president is feeling resolved, confident in his decision, no hesitation, no regrets, that this was the right move for him to make, despite some of the fallout you were already seeing overseas and the fallout here at home as well. Because what's happening now politically, the president is facing serious criticism from members of Congress for not notifying certain key members of Congress, certain key Democrats and Republicans in advance of the strike, and for not seeking congressional authorization as well. I'm told the president has no concerns about the authorization piece of it, that they feel like, the White House feels like they are on solid footing and solid ground with carrying out this strike. The question now that the president will have to answer, and you're right, he did not take questions, Lester, which was different when you and I spoke the night that the president, or the day the president announced the death of another highly wanted terrorist, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. He took questions from reporters then for 20, 30 minutes, getting into extraordinary detail about the strike, the raid in that instance. You did not see this now, and that appeared to be an intentional choice from the president and from the White House. But here's the question he will have to answer. What is the strategy now moving forward when Iran, and it is almost certainly when Iran retaliates, not if Iran retaliates? I'm told by my sources that the White House and the administration have been prepping responses in the event that happens, Lester.
Yeah, the question of what would the next step be. Hallie Jackson, thanks. Garrett Hake is watching things on Capitol Hill. A lot of moving parts. What we're not talking about is impeachment, but that certainly is hovering behind all this.
Yeah, Lester, and it's possible that the lingering bad blood and lack of trust over impeachment is part of the reason why Democrats were not notified about this strike. In fact, very few congressional leaders were notified in advance at all, although I can tell you that two Democratic leaders, the top Democrats on the intelligence committees in both the House and Senate, received briefings today, and they came away from those seeming to believe that, in fact, there was some kind of imminent threat here that needed to be acted upon in some manner. The big question now, what goes on from here? Hallie teed this up. Congressional leaders want to know what's the broader strategy here. They may support the president tactically in making this strike, but they want to know what's the U.S. government's approach more broadly going to be towards Iran. All of this happening as the Senate returned today. Senate leaders saying there is still no deal yet on the contours, the rules for an impeachment trial that could start essentially any minute if such a deal is struck. But for now, impeachment in an impasse still, and members of Congress waiting for that classified briefing that they'll likely bet when most of them return next week.
And Garrett, to be clear, no member of Congress was alerted to this action or brief?
Lindsey Graham, a constant ally of the president, a Republican senator, but not someone in the top leadership ranks, says he was told that this was a possibility some time ago when he was in Florida. And the Republican House leader, Kevin McCarthy, was at Mar-a-Lago last night. It's possible he was told, but not the traditional Gang of Eight leadership.
All right, Garrett, thanks very much. We'll have full coverage, expanded coverage on Nightly News shortly. For now, I'm Lester Holt in New York. Good day.
And you are watching an NBC News special report. We'll have more news coming up after this. All right, it's been kind of a crazy Friday news day, but we can't leave without talking to our pet of the week, about our pet of the week. Chuck Nordstrom with SPCA here to talk about this cute guy. His name is Smokey.
Smokey, little Chihuahua, 10 years old, kind of a senior, looking for that right home where he can just kind of chill out and be somebody's little buddy.
Okay, so he's kind of past the puppy stage. He's, he's ready for someone to just take him home and kind of maybe just sit around.
Sit on the lap.
I think
he's
that's
going
what
to
he's
curl
doing
up
right
and
now.
lay
He's
down
just,
here, and that's what he likes.
Okay, perfect. And he's a little more reserved.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very sweet. Loves everybody, however.
Okay, well, that's good. So, again, and he's up for adoption?
Up for adoption. Come out today. Spend some time with Smokey. Let him curl up in your lap.
How did he come to
he was
your
the
center?
stray that was found roaming the street, so we don't know what happened.
And how long has he been with you?
We've had him there a couple of weeks now,
Okay.
but he's really a sweet little guy.
Yeah, he's got a sweet face. So again, he is 10 years old, right? 10 years old, and he is ready for a home. So if you would like to adopt Smokey or one of his friends, head down to the SPCA. You can give them a call at 323-8353, and he's ready to be picked up today. All right, so yeah, even if you want to pick him up later this afternoon or evening, he will be there, or you can come tomorrow as well. Chuck, thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. All right, well, thanks for joining us for 17 News at noon. We'll see you back here tonight for 17 News at 5. Have a great first weekend of 2020.
17 News, your local news leader, continues 24 hours a day on KGET.com and our 17 News app. In the spirit of the Golden Empire, 17 News.